Hello, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me, guys. Today we're going to talk about Grand Theft Auto 6. Grand Theft Auto 6 on June 25th finally released their pre-sale. $80 a copy, 38 million copies sold, $3 billion. Okay? At $80 a copy, they were nice enough to include a box with no disc inside, so that the gamers could actually live inside that box once they failed to pay rent from not showing up to work. Grand Theft Auto 6 is the biggest media thing ever. You'd have to stack on Michael Jackson's entire catalog with all of the combined sales from every Taylor Swift concert ever on top of all of Harry Potter's sales to equal a game that isn't even out yet. Okay? I mean, I remember the first time I played Grand Theft Auto 3. I was in a restaurant. My dad took me to a restaurant with some of his friends. I was like 9 years old at the time. And this guy, Joey, he was from New Jersey. And Joey was like, yo, Aunt. And I'm eating a Caesar salad, like a chicken Caesar salad or something, at a rinky dinky steakhouse, an old one in Las Vegas. And Joey's like, yo, Aunt, you ever played Grand Theft Auto? I was 9 years old, and there's no way my Asian family was going to let me play a game like Grand Theft Auto at the age of 9. He's like, yo, you gotta play Grand Theft Auto 3. I don't know if he had a speech impediment or something, but he said that's what I remember him sounding like. He's like, you can get in trouble with the law, and you can get in a shootout with cops, and you can take baseball bats and beat the shit out of hookers. You can kidnap broads and shit. It's a great time. You should play it. And so at 9 years old, I was like, okay, well, I guess that does sound fun. I don't know. So I managed to trade a copy of Final Fantasy for a copy of Grand Theft Auto 3. And I never looked back. And there's a lot of us in America who have a memory of us playing Grand Theft Auto for the first time and getting to commit crimes with no repercussions. You just wake up in the hospital or you wake up in front of a police station. Great time. And a lot of people argue that violent video games might have not been the best for the mental health of children growing up in America. They might have been right. I don't know. Looking back about 20 years later, it seems like armed robberies are kind of a very popular thing. So maybe they were right about video games messing with our brains. But it was a good time. It was a good time. Fellas, let me help you prepare for the release of Grand Theft Auto 6. Okay, first thing you're going to want to do is meal prep. DoorDash drivers aren't going to be working either. Okay? So make sure you order probably about 3 frozen pizzas per day up until Thanksgiving, when your family and friends are probably going to force you to leave the home. You're going to need about 25 frozen pizzas to get through the week. All right? Your girlfriend, if you have a girlfriend or significant other or whatever, it doesn't matter. You're going to have to get them a mani-pedi, maybe some flowers. Maybe you can just send them to an all-inclusive for a few days. Get them out of the house, because you're going to be sedentary. I know there is going to be a ass cheek shaped print in my gaming chair. I'm not going to move. I'm going to be playing Grand Theft Auto for 4 days straight. I'm going to smoke the whole pack. I'm going to smoke the whole pack of Grand Theft Auto 6 in 4 days so that I can return to society and try to be a productive citizen after disassociating for 72 hours. Get a babysitter if you have kids. Just do something, okay? Next, I got a story from my hometown, Las Vegas. An unauthorized biolab was raided inside of a residential garage in Las Vegas. And the operation unraveled when guests at an unlicensed Airbnb smelled a foul odor coming from the garage. And then they developed respiratory problems and fell ill. A multi agency raid discovered over 1,000 biological samples, including flu vaccines, fabricated fake COVID tests and pregnancy tests, and over 1,000 human biological samples being stored at room temperature. A Chinese national operating the biolabs in the United States were already in prison, and they were using a Israeli national as their muscle. So this Chinese national was already in prison for running a different biolab in California. So he's doing 2 years in a federal institution. He was using a phone that he smuggled in to the institution to talk to his Israeli national guy who was on the ground in Nevada. And his guy, Ori Solomon, the said Israeli national, living in Las Vegas on a non-immigrant visa, was managing 37 different rental properties. I'll be honest, the dude's a hustler. People give immigrants a hard time, but you don't see third, fourth generation Americans working this hard. Ori Solomon, who was also charged with illegal possession of a firearm, was dismissed on that charge in the pursuit of justice, was managing not only the Airbnbs, but a gun smuggling operation and a biolab. Who says immigrants don't work hard? On June 4th, they're going to have the discovery for the case, and Ori Solomon's going to show up to court. So I'm excited to see what happens. What happens when an Israeli national running a criminal organization for Chinese nationals gets caught? I don't know. I'm on the edge of my seat for that one. So now I got some questions from some friends on Instagram, and we're going to go ahead and answer them on air, okay? This one is from Mason. Yo, did you see the news about the U.S. and Iran pausing the fighting around the Strait of Hormuz? Everyone on my feed is saying it's just a temporary ceasefire and things are going to boil over again soon. Are we actually on the brink of a massive war, or is it mostly just the media fear-mongering? If you ask anybody over the age of 40, we need this war. This war is really important for oil. For oil. This war is particularly important because why else do we have a military? We have all these drones and planes and boats and soldiers, and unemployment's going to increase in the United States, and we got to do something with all these guys. All these guys are going to be playing Grand Theft Auto 6. We have to send them to the Strait of Hormuz. It depends on whether or not Netanyahu actually wants to have this war, because he's Big Daddy in the White House. So, yeah, we'll give it a beat. But if I had to bet, if I had to put my money on the line, I would say the war will probably continue, and that any time Trump says that the war is going to end, it's just some sort of I don't know, stock market manipulation. I don't think that's extremely nuanced or insightful. I think we all know that. A question from Natalie about prepping. I don't know why you'd ask me. Hey, quick question. I'm seeing a ton of posts warning about major global supply chain disruptions right now. Because of the shipping lanes being closed, is there specific stuff we should be stockpiling this month, like whey proteins or fertilizers? Or are people just panic buying again? I think prepping in America is it's very unique to American culture. I mean, the consideration of the apocalypse in general is uniquely American. Only American shows, and maybe like a couple Australian ones, write fantasy about the end of the world or a zombie apocalypse or oil shortages. Because things like that happen every day, every year, and are actually the status quo in places like, I don't know, the Levant, anywhere in the Middle East. So for suburban Americans, an apocalyptic event is like the power grid going out. And that would set Americans back quite a bit. We would probably descend into complete chaos and, we'd have local warlords popping up all over the place in a matter of minutes. What I would do is maybe like keep a little bit of extra water and maybe some maybe get a gun if you don't already have one. Maybe maybe get like a video game system and a generator and keep yourself busy. If you go and get Grand Theft Auto 6, you probably have enough content to keep you busy for like 1,000 hours. Maybe start a garden. Maybe pick up reading a book. I've gotten back into books. I, I've started with ones that have pictures in them, a lot of them, but the ones with words, they can probably take up a lot of time. Yeah, a lot of my friends will tell me, Anthony, when shit hits the fan, I'm going to your house. I don't think you actually want to do that because if shit hits the fan, we're probably going to go do some fun stuff. So I wouldn't, unless you're buckling up to do things like that involve leaving your cell phone at home, then I wouldn't come to my house during the apocalypse. Okay. Question from Roger. Bro, did you see the Supreme Court headline today? They finally agreed to review the state bans on AR-15s and automatic assault rifles. If they strike the bans down, does that mean they become fully legal everywhere immediately, or do individual states have the ability to still block sales? I'm trying to settle a debate with my dad. It's definitely a state issue. Uh, the local Supreme Courts in each state do their own thing based on whatever lobbies is going on. I know in Texas, all you need is like a passport and you can get whatever you want. Literally whatever you want. It doesn't matter. And this is America. I was just talking about Ori Solomon. This guy's an Israeli national here on a non-immigrant visa, and he had a ton of guns. So when it comes to guns, just get whatever you want. Get whatever you can afford. I think guns are going to become pointless soon. And I know that's contentious, but a gun can only do so much because the government has autonomous drones now. What are you going to do about that? You can't shoot down 10 drones with an AR-15. The only thing you could shoot are kids sitting in a classroom or people at a mall. That's pointless. You have to be some kind of psychopath to think that you're going to protect your constitutional rights with a semi-automatic assault rifle when there's a robot that can beat you to the punch and isn't even afraid of getting shot. If you really wanted to protect your constitutional rights, I'd probably get like a DJI and a 3D printer and maybe put something on your drone that can drop things that are about this size. And if you have the internet, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, the Civil War in America is something a lot of people fantasize about. And I don't think it's really possible because I think Americans are far too lazy to commit to a civil war. Do you know how much effort it is to go be a soldier? No, 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 no. That's why Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming out, is to prevent a civil war because every military-aged male is not going to be willing to leave the house because they're going to be busy playing Grand Theft Auto 6 when AI takes all of our jobs. Let's take a moment to tell you guys about Let's Hibachi. So I used to work in Michelin star restaurants. I used to be a sports nutrition chef for the Raiders. I've worked in high volume restaurants like Momofuku and Esther's Kitchen. And the restaurant life was pretty grueling, but I did learn a lot of really cool techniques. Past 3 years, a couple of you, a lot of you guys may or may not know that I'm a hibachi chef now. So, you know, I'm showing immigrants what it's like when an American takes their job. Just kidding. I have been doing hibachi and I realized that I enjoy being really close to the people that I'm cooking for. When you're working in a restaurant, you don't really get to see the people that you're cooking for unless it's an open kitchen. And even then, you're too busy to get the opportunity to interact with them. And for the past couple years, I've had a blast doing private hibachi at Airbnbs, people's homes, uh, for vacations, birthday parties, weddings, whatever. And Let's Hibachi has a ton of extremely talented chefs that have left the industry of restaurants to do private chef work. So, shout out to Let's Hibachi for giving chefs an opportunity to leave the restaurant and go into homes to share their very rich experience and knowledge with people. And we're going to end today's show talking about one of my favorite fictional characters, Tagila. For those of you who don't know who Tagila is, he's a character in the video game Escape from Tarkov, which is a first-person shooter made in Russia about a post-apocalyptic city that resembles St. Petersburg. And in the game, you play a soldier who gets stranded there, like a private military contractor. They're doing really shady work, and an EMP blast goes off, and you're trapped in the city. And so a lot of the locals in the city of Tarkov end up becoming kind of like the bosses that you have to fight at various locations. And so Tagila is actually a very blue collar guy. And actually, I think in Russian represents, it's actually sort of an endearing term for somebody that is a blue collar worker. And in the game, he appears as a boss and an adversary, but I'll make the argument that Tagila is actually one of the protagonists of the game, and that the character that you play in Escape from Tarkov is actually an antagonist. So Tagila has a welding mask that's bulletproof. He has a bulletproof plate carrier. He doesn't wear a shirt under it, and he's has a lot of tats, and he carries a sledgehammer and typically like a shotgun. So he's a very scary person, as you can imagine, and he kind of just yells at you throughout the game whenever you find him. And the map that you usually find him on is an abandoned chemical factory where they make military grade stimulants. So this guy, who probably was just a regular blue collar factory worker, has this event happen in his hometown. And now he's fighting random private military contractors, mercenaries, all over his hometown. And so he has to, get the things that he can together, including stimulants and a sledgehammer, to go beat the shit out of those guys. And I think he is a very relatable character, especially for Americans, because if something like that were to happen in the United States, I can imagine a lot of blue collar workers going and hanging out in a warehouse, ready to fight whoever they come across. Thank you, guys. This was a short and awkward episode. Excited to show you guys our guest next time. Thank you.